But just this week we did one on, there was an old lady who swallowed a clover. And so what I usually do, we'll start off going through the sound system, and about half of the way through the year I'll use the banner and point with a pointer, and then I'll start around Christmas. I'll say that Jackson gave me a Christmas present and he gave me a necklace, and so then I wear this, and then we go through the sounds on here. And sometimes I'll have a student wear it as like an incentive or a motivator, and they'll flip through them and everybody will watch them, and we'll do it that way. So we first go through this. My kindergarten teachers have the whole classroom kit, and then our first grade teachers have the soundboard kit, and they continue on with the blending of the vowel consonant, the consonant vowel consonant in first grade. I don't work as much with the first grade teachers. I initially got them trained and kind of helped them with it, but now they're kind of on their own. But kindergarten, I go in once a week for a half an hour in each class and do a lesson, and then the other 4 days of the week my kindergarten teachers review it every day during their circle time or their calendar time or whatever it is. But anyway, this week there was an old lady who swallowed a clover, so usually I'll read through the story, and it's usually theme based on what's going on with the calendar or the holidays or whatever. And as we go through it, so I read the story, and we talk usually about the vocabulary. I usually give them a homework per week, and what I'll do is I'll give the homework, I'll just run them off for the students, and then the teachers collect them and they just look over them quickly, and I'll give them a key just to kind of see if they're getting the concepts, if they're answering the questions correctly, that type of a thing. And it's been pretty successful with everybody returning it most of the time. But we'll go through the vocabulary. Lots of the skills that we'll work on are answering who, what, where, when questions. We work on sequencing the events in the story, what happened first, next, and last. We work a lot on retelling. Usually I have a lot of pictures at the end of the homework, and then the kids will have to go back through to their parents. Even if their parents haven't heard the story, usually I'll type a little, synopsis of the story at the front page, and then they'll have to point to the pictures and go back and retell the story to their parents from what they remember from class. But we'll talk about the little old lady who swallowed her clover, and then I'll ask them, what else can you call it besides a clover? And they'll say shamrock. So we go through, we listen for the rhyming words, and they say thumbs up if two words rhyme and thumbs down if they don't. And then I've got the little old lady, and then all of the pieces that she swallows. What we'll do is I'll ask them, I'll call on somebody to take the pointer and go up to the sound system and tell me what the first sound is that they hear in fiddle. So they'll take the pointer and they'll go up and they'll point to the teeth out sound. And then I'll ask them what the last sound is that they hear in fiddle, and they'll go up and they'll point to the tongue up sound. So we do that with all of these. And then when we get through that, another thing that we did, Ashley actually found this for me this year, and I think it's Pinterest, isn't it?
Or
Teacher Pay Teacher. So what I did with this was on the teacher's dry erase board up front, I put up beginning, middle, and end. And then on the dry erase board, I've got beginning, middle, and end. And then I'll tell them, I'll say, okay, here we have 2 clovers or 2 shamrocks. And on the stem, we've got the middle sound and the ending sound. So you guys can't all see that, but like this one is op. So with the beginning, middle, and end that I'll have up there on the board, I'll have, op on there. And then I'll take these off and I'll have them up here with me, and I won't show them to them, and I'll say, okay, what would it be if we put a lip locker at the beginning? And then they'll say mop. So we're just making words within word families. So we complete all of those, and then I'll talk to them about how they all have the same middle and ending sound, so they all rhyme. Or they'll tell me, yes, they all rhyme, or no, they don't think they do. And then I'll ask them to give me another word that rhymes with the other 3. So we're kind of getting to some different advanced things. Some of the other skills that we work on are counting how many sounds are in the word, op, and then we use when I first introduced syllables, I borrow the tambourine from the music teacher, and I go through with their names, and all of them with their names. We go through everybody, and they tap on the tambourine how many syllables or how many beats are in their name. And so for mop, we'll count mop, how many beats are in the word. And we'll call them beats or syllables, and then they'll say one. Because sometimes kids get that confused at that level, especially how many sounds versus how many syllables. Then sometimes we'll use the word in a sentence, and we'll count how many words are in the sentence and do some of those other types of skills. What else? The only other thing I had, like for this, I brought a sample of like an example of the homework that I'll pass around so you guys can just kind of see it. The other one is the night before St. Patrick's Day. The kids love this story, and the homework, you can kind of see that goes with it. And what I did was I just got some gold pieces, and all of my vowels I put on gold, and then all of my consonants I put on green, just so that when I passed them all out to the students, I would know just by looking if they had a vowel or a consonant, so I could call them up. And sometimes I'll do 2 of them at a time for vowel consonant for the syllable, and then I'll do CVC. So one of them will hold, and I'll say, okay, when I tap their head, everybody's going to say the sound. Sam. And so we work on those nonsense words that they're going to be doing in doubles, and they'll give me a thumbs up if it's a real word and a thumbs down if it's a nonsense word. So I will say that I was very overwhelmed when I first learned this program, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is a lot. But once you pick it up, I mean, it's basically our place, voice, manner chart that we learned in school, so I wish I would have thought of it. But it does take a lot of work at the beginning to kind of front load and get it all put together, but then once you like really get into it, then kind of the sky's the limit. So what I do with mine at Westwood is at the beginning of the year, I go through with all of my kindergartners and I pre-test them with the short vowels, the vowel consonant, and the CVC. And then about October, we'll go through the short vowels again to make sure that everybody has all the short vowels really solidly before about Christmas time or right after Christmas, then we start blending the sounds together more. And then at the very end of the year in May, then I do a post-test. And just the results that I've gotten from doing this way have been really, really, really encouraging. It's not hard, but I just put all the kids' names down in Excel, and then I put the beginning of the year, the middle of the year is just the short vowels, and then the end of the year. And then what I do is I give this data to my principal, and then I give each kindergarten teacher the results of her year for the class. And then in first grade, I give all the first grade teachers, all 3 of the kindergarten teachers' results so that they can see where the students were at the end of the year with their progress and where they should be coming in with being able to blend and sound out BC and CVC words. So, any questions? I think, yeah.
Do you do this with all your kindergarten and first grade students that are identified with speech and language, or
kids that are in I don't do anything with first grade. Okay. The first grade teachers do the soundboard kids as a center in their rooms on their own.
In the classroom.
In their classroom.
She's talking gen ed classroom.
This is in the gen ed, and we use this as like a tier 1 RTI in all of our kindergartens. And we just have 3 kindergartens, and since they went to all-day kindergarten, that's helped out a lot, because I used to do it when it was AM and PM. So that was a lot. This year, I've introduced it into the preschool, and it's really worked well. I would say that kindergarten-bound preschoolers pick it up a little bit more than the really young, like 3 and 4s, but they've still held their own with it. I think they're starting to catch on more and more. Even our essential skills classroom teacher, I worked with her a little bit on it, and she's using it with her kids, and she's got a little bit more higher functioning kids this year. But some of the kids on the autism spectrum, they're teaching it, and they know it, and they've memorized it, and they're starting to blend the sounds together, and they're first graders.
Now, those kids that you do see, do they have a foot or a needs awareness goal rating, or is it just?
Yeah, a lot of the times, like they're language kids, and so since I'm kind of doing a whole classroom language lesson with them, then I'll count that as one of their therapy sessions. and then the other time they'll come to me directly to finish working on whatever area they're working on. So, but it is daunting at the beginning, but I feel like you kind of prove to your principals what you know, and your classroom teachers kind of buy into it if you're willing to lead it. If you're not willing to kind of be the facilitator of it, I feel like it's a lot to add to their plate that they've already got. So you kind of have to be the facilitator of it, and there's other ways you can do it, so they're going to tell you other ways that they do it. So.
And like just Kara said, I think at the beginning, the prep work is, you have to put your lessons together. I copied some from Nan, I copied some from Kara. This year it's more like grab and go what I've done, but I've found this year, for some reason, there's a lot of kids in my kindergarten classes that don't celebrate holidays, so I've had to make some kind of neutral lessons. So I can, and I'm like Kara, I have 4 kindergarten classes, so I do pre-test all my kids. I know Nikki is going to talk about something different, but and then what I've done is just the post-test at the end. And so I give that data to the kindergarten teachers as well as the principal, and just so they have that extra information. So I just kind of brought an example of what I made. And I'm lucky because I have 2 little ones at home, so they've been growing out of their books, so I haven't had to buy a lot of books. Yeah. So I'm sure everybody knows the Napping House, but this is one that I did that's kind of a neutral one, not going with the season or holiday or whatever, but it's, if you know the book, I love it. It's very repetitious. It has a lot of cool vocabulary. So I guess I jumped ahead, but I do what Kara does. I always review. First thing when I go in, we review all the sounds. At the beginning, of course, we teach it. I think the visual, along with the tactile, along with the auditory, is awesome. I mean, I have the kids swear up sometimes. I always have my hands going, and they do too. So I think that really helps them, in addition to the visual, is just the movement that goes with it. So after we review that every time, and then I do a language lesson with the book. So we tie in some of the words that we're talking about. We talk about the vocabulary, this one's snoring granny, it means this thing. We talk about the dreaming child, snoring granny, all those words that are can mean the same thing, but we do a lot of the WH questions. We talk a lot about the sequencing, and with this one, what I did is I just made pictures from the story. We talk about it, we describe it, and then they have, take these off, or these are off at the beginning, and then I, at the end of the book, have students come up and retell the story in order using the picture, so it's retelling, sequencing in the correct order. And then if we have time, I also made this where we can work on we talk about how we can change words just by changing the beginning sound. So I'll use a dry erase marker and just have the kids pick a sound, and we'll put it in, and then we'll read it together. Can we change it into a different word? And we'll kind of go through all the different sounds. So that's just kind of one example that I do. Trying to think of. Now that we've started the integrated week, I have continued to go in and do my lessons on a weekly basis, but I'm thinking next year, I'm kind of pulling from what Nikki does too, because I was thinking about, what? Well, I'll just touch on it, but I was thinking about going in and doing more of instead of doing a whole group lesson, going in and doing more like a station, where I can actually work with smaller groups and really key onto some of those kids that are struggling. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about for next year, doing my lessons 3 weeks and then doing more of a station in the integrated week. I've gotten really good feedback from teachers. I think they really like it. The kids love it. I mean, they're excited. They love it.
First thing, it has lowered my kindergarten referrals.
Oh, yes.
Tremendously. Because teachers know more, and they just do this all the time. So I think I had 10 kindergarten referrals all year. They all needed it, but 10, I'll take it. So, let's see. I don't do anything of what they said, pretty much. I do the whole sound system, use all this material, but I don't do language lessons because my teachers didn't want that. I have 6 kindergarten classes. So I do not pre-test all of my kids either.
And she has 2 buildings.
Yes, yes. And yeah, I do not pre-test all of them. So what I do is I give the teachers the first 2 or so weeks of school. They come up with a list of kids that they think may need extra help, like by their first scores they get or whatever. And I will go in the classroom and just do the board the first probably 2 months of school. I'll just do the board, take me about 20 minutes. I'll do the first sound, the ending sound, stuff like that. But I just go in and do the board. And then after that 2 months, well, I'll test the 6 or 7 that the teachers are concerned about. I'll test them sometime in September, probably, pre-test. And then, so I'll have that data. I don't do a October testing or in the middle year at all, but then I'll see those kids. Like I said, I'll go in the classroom first 2 months so that all the kids can learn these. And I will even take some of these in, not right away, but like towards after Christmas, I'll go in like once or twice in January and take some of these in and work with the whole class in like 10 minutes.